Welcome, Karen McMahon, our rock star certified relationship and divorce coach and founder of Journey Beyond Divorce. Karen began divorce coaching in 2010 after recognizing that the pain of her divorce led her on a transformational journey into a powerful and unexpected new life. And now Karen leads a national team of divorce coaches in supporting men and women around the world to become calm, clear, and confident as they navigate divorce. Karen's the host of the acclaimed Journey Beyond Divorce podcast. She's the co-author of Stepping Out of Chaos, Turning Pain to Possibility, and she is the creator of Journey Beyond Divorce's exclusive Accelerated Divorce Recovery Program. Thank you, Karen, for joining me today.
Hi, Tracy. So excited to be here.
I know. It is always fun to do these interviews. I always learn so much. I think it's fun that we can, even though I'm a numbers person and you're a recovery person, we can always find common ground. So it's fun to talk about stuff. And today I'm excited because we are talking about how to get off the fence and leave your toxic marriage. So the first thing I want to know from you, Karen, is what is a toxic marriage as compared to one that has just gone sour?
Yeah. And that's such a great question. Most people who are in a toxic marriage would actually ask the same question. Like when I was in my toxic marriage, if someone said it was toxic, I wouldn't have resonated with that. And so the difference is the behavior that both partners engage in. And so in a toxic marriage, you have a lot of conflict. You have a significant imbalance in partnership. And so someone might always be on the defensive and being blamed and accused. You can have a lot of a complete lack of empathy. So you're in a marriage and you feel like when I cry, when I bring something to the table, I might as well be talking to the wall. Like I'm not seen, I'm not heard, I'm not received. There's usually a tremendous amount of conflict and chaos. And that doesn't always sound like yelling and screaming. In my household, it did, but equally toxic marriages can have individuals who implode, silent treatment, withdraw, which can feel equally as assaulting as someone who is cursing or blaming or belittling. And so the behavior is and both partners tend to be pretty dysregulated. And the lesser of the two, the person who doesn't do the blaming and accusing, can often look like the more dysregulated, the more disordered individual, because that person is trying to wrap their logical brain around behavior that's just so disordered. And so that person tends to want to control to get some calm, control to get some to be seen, control to change dynamics that feel so uncomfortable, the chaos feeling so uncomfortable. And so in that behavior, the partner of the more disordered person actually, I was a frothing at the mouth rageaholic before I realized something had gone terribly wrong. So that's toxic. With many of the individuals I work with whose marriages have kind of just like dissolved, they've realized, even if only one party realizes it's not working anymore, there's a very different flavor to the communication, to the negotiations, to the power dynamic that's going on, which is a good sign that this is like, okay, we may be saying mean things to each other. We may not be agreeing on much, but all of those other elements aren't there.
I hear people going through divorce commonly saying they want to know why and they want an apology. And that until they get those two things, they want the truth, they want the why, they want the apology. Until they get those things, they can't possibly move on.
Yes.
Those are tough. Those are tough. And I don't think even if they get them, that heals people.
Well, so there's two things. What I would say to your listeners is if that's you, if you are looking for the understanding and the apology, you are taking all of your agency all of your power and you're handing it to this person
Yes.
who, if it's a toxic relationship, has already berated, belittled, ignored, shut down, whatever they did. And so now you're going to say, here is my peace and joy. You get to hold on to it until you explain to me and apologize to me. There's no common sense in that. And so I always say to my clients, why does become irrelevant? You want to call him a narcissist? You want to call her a gold digger? Whatever you want to call them, it's irrelevant. What's relevant is, what is your experience? What do you want to do about it? Why you're so afraid to do what you want to do about it? And how do we begin to help you move forward? And so the other one is forgiveness. Okay, so let's say you never get an apology. You never get an explanation or an apology. What? If you say to me, I can't move forward without those two things, you've put yourself in a prison. The key to the prison door is sitting right next to you and you choose not to pick it up. There are other ways of processing what's happened to us and finding our own way to forgiveness and acceptance without the other person's participation. Is it the best case scenario? Absolutely not. But if you're in a toxic marriage, there's just no best case scenario. You need to find a path that's going to get you out of hell and back on track for who you want to be, living your best life. And that's what getting off the fence and leaving your toxic marriage can do.
So we're talking today about leaving a toxic marriage. And I think that a lot of people who are listening today are already in the process of divorce. So for the most part, they've made that decision to leave. But I know that some still have second thoughts. And as we know, there are plenty of divorces that end up getting called off, right? So who do you find yourself speaking to today?
So if you've made a decision to leave, one thing is you may not have told your spouse yet, right? So you may have made an internal decision. And I would say, if that's you, congratulations, because making that internal decision and then saying, what do I need before I move forward, is vitally important. And so a few things to keep in mind if that's you is, do you know your legal rights? So oftentimes when we're in a toxic marriage, our spouse will tell us that we're going to be penniless, we're not going to have the kids, we're going to be alone for the rest of our lives and all of this. And a lot of spouses will listen and live in this deep fear of this nightmare. And your spouse is equally as afraid of as you are, and they don't know what they're talking about either. And so getting educated, speaking to a matrimonial attorney, speaking to a financial professional, getting the information you need so that you understand, if I step into this foreign land of divorce, I know what my attorney said. They do this Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, not my spouse. And I'm speaking to someone like Tracy to understand financially what might happen. You're now so much better set up to move forward with some confidence and with the beginning of a support team as well, which is what we strongly encourage.
Well, the scare tactics are so prevalent. And because I work with money, I see this so much, that money is one of the primary things that holds people back from moving forward with a divorce that they probably in their heart know needs to happen. They are worried about being penniless. They've been told, you'll never get part of my 401k. You're gonna be kicked out of the house and you're gonna get nothing from it. And, but for the most unusual circumstances, or for those circumstances where there's a strong prenup, people need to understand you are entitled to things, and the courts are there to protect you. They're not perfect, but they're sure there to protect you.
Absolutely. And I think the other huge fear, if I could just speak to it for a minute, is I'm going to destroy my children. And to me, my statement is, under certain circumstances, divorce is the best thing you could do for your children. And hear me out. If you're in a toxic marriage, you are training your children what intimate love looks like. And you're training them that intimate love looks like the toxic, intimate love between you and your spouse.
Right.
And what research shows is that it's not divorce, but conflict that harms children. So if you're in a toxic marriage and there has been either um, silent treatment, subtle conflict, or yelling, screaming conflict, and you're staying for the kids, you are doing them a disservice. They are better off under two separate groups, even if one spouse is high conflict. If you, the non high conflict spouse, can regulate yourself, do some work on yourself, and create a healthy, peaceful household, those children are better off with two households than under one, where you remain this broken, lost shell of yourself, and they experience intimate love is what's going on between mom and dad.
Well, I hear people say, have I tried hard enough? Should I give it one more chance? How much longer should I keep going, keep trying to make this marriage work? Why is it so hard for people to leave their dysfunctional marriages? Why do they keep thinking, I got to give it one more shot?
At the foundation of it, it's fear and self-doubt. And what we do when we coach with people is we slow it down. So one of my first questions would be like, okay, what's been your experience in communicating about your problems, in going to couples coaching, marriage therapy, something like that? And typically what comes up is we've done it a few times, or he or she is opposed to doing it. And what is your experience in any reconciliation with any problem that arises? And what I typically hear with the toxic marriages is the only reconciliation comes when I apologize, when I bend over backwards, when I swallow my truth and my words. And the other thing I hear is I keep trying. I've given 100%, 150%, 200%. And what has he or she given? Very little bit. And so if you're saying that you're not sure, I would challenge that you're very sure, that your inner wisdom and your experience speaks volumes about how what you've been experiencing is what you're going to continue to experience,
Yes.
right? Like if there's no signs, if there's no possibility, then you're making a decision out of hopefulness and fear that doesn't serve you. And you can forgive and still not being able to reconcile. And so that's a point, that's that crossroads where it's like, okay, I don't want to walk around bitter and angry, but I do need to come to terms with the fact that I cannot reconcile with this individual. And I need to go on this other path. And I can still find my way. And forgiveness is a journey, find my way to acceptance and forgiveness over the course of time.
So I am all about actionable steps. Are there some even small actionable steps that people can take, even if they're not yet feeling like they're ready to leave that toxic marriage?
Yes, I would say that I'll give two, and the first one is boundaries. If you're in a toxic marriage, you probably were not raised with boundaries. What is a boundary? A boundary is a physical or emotional limit or rule. It's almost like the fence around your property is a boundary. People can't just come onto your personal property. When we're in toxic marriages, there's no boundaries. And we are boundary oblivious, and we've married someone who's boundary oblivious. And so a boundary would be, Tracy, if you continue to speak to me that way, I'm going to have to end this conversation. However, if you can kind of bring it down and be more careful with your words, we can continue. And so that's setting a boundary. The way you're speaking to me is not acceptable. That's a boundary. When people, it's one of the quickest ways to feel like you've gained some agency back, to step back into control of yourself. So those of us in toxic marriages often feel like there's nothing I can do. He or she's yelling or screaming or berating or manipulating, and there's nothing I can do. If you're an adult, you can be fully in control. They're not going to like it, and the initial reaction may be more anger and hostility, but you can get up and leave, you can hang up the phone, you can close the door, you can take the kids and go out, you can do a lot of different, you can leave the kids at home and leave because they're fine and safe, but you need to go for a drive. You can disengage from nasty conflict. And we just don't. In fact, I will say, I have a memory of standing on the staircase, and I got divorced 17 years ago, so maybe this was 20 years ago. Standing on the staircase, front door right in front of me, my then husband screaming, yelling, cussing, belittling, and berating me. Normal, happened all the time. And I remember looking over at the table at the front door and seeing my car keys. I swear it was a God thing. And in that moment, I thought, oh my God, I could grab those car keys and leave. Right. And here I'm sitting here as if he had a bat getting the shit kicked out of me. And I just walked over, grabbed my keys, walked out the door, got in the car, and went for a drive. It was one of the most liberating feelings. And so if you're in a toxic marriage, I have a Brilliance of Boundaries workshop. Find yourself articles, workshops, podcasts on boundaries, and begin to understand what a boundary is, how to set it, and more importantly, how to uphold it, because upholding it is not about getting him or her to change their behavior. It's about getting you to change your behavior. And it's a game changer. It will really make an enormous amount of difference as you stay and figure out your next steps.
Does someone have to decide today that they're leaving the toxic marriage? Is it okay to not decide today? Is it okay to decide that I'm not deciding right now?
It's brilliant to decide that you're not deciding. However, if you're going to not decide, when I do talks on should I mend or should I end, I always encourage people, if you're not in a physically abusive relationship, stay and mend. But don't mend the way most people think about it. Mend by looking in the mirror. And this was my second. I said I had two tips. One was boundaries. The second one is about curbing the conflict. Look and see how you behave. And so if you're staying and you're going, you know what? I'm yelling all the time. I'm nagging. I'm doing whatever I'm doing. I have these behaviors. I had behaviors I just couldn't stand in myself. So I'm going to slow things down. I'm going to start noticing what triggers me, what my stories are in my head, how I react, not respond, react in displeasing ways when I'm triggered. And I'm going to start changing the way I communicate, the way I respond or react to triggers. And I am going to work on creating a better version of myself. And in doing that, one of two things is going to happen. Either your spouse is going to move closer and go, wow, we actually had a good conversation, or they're not. They're going to remain the same. They're going to get really frustrated with your now regulated, calmer behavior. And you're going to be calmer and clearer. And your decision about whether or not to stay or go is going to become crystal clear. You don't have to worry about it. You are going to jump on the right side of the correct side of that fence and move forward in no time.
Karen, as we wrap up, what can you tell me would be the recommended approach to taking this really, really frightening step to leave?
Don't do it alone. Whether you're relying on a therapist or a divorce coach, don't do it alone. Don't listen to all the stories of your friends and family. Their divorce is not your divorce. Every one of them is unique and different. And so I would say, get educated, create a support team, find yourself a specific person who knows divorce, who can support you, and you'll be stepping into it in a solid way.
I completely agree with that. Most people have not been through divorce before. They don't know what to expect. And so working with experts is really the way to go, because they can tell you from experience how these things go and what to expect. Tell us about some of the programs that you have, what's new and exciting with Journey Beyond Divorce?
We have a couple of things going on. We have a Get Off the Fence and Leave Your Toxic Marriage program that people could find out about at Journey Beyond Divorce. It's right on our homepage. And we also have an accelerated divorce recovery program, which is like 12 steps. It includes curbing the conflict and calming the chaos and noticing your problem-oriented focus and learning to be present. And it talks about acceptance and judgment, all of the key obstacles, emotional obstacles that clients face. And so it's a brilliant way to go through the program, grow through your divorce, and emerge healthy. And most importantly, if you've resonated with anything I've said and you could really use some support, we have a rapid relief call, rapidreliefcall.com. You get a free call with one of our coaches. We'll give you some guidance, see what program or one-on-one is best for you and help you get started.
Your programs are phenomenal. And so I encourage everyone to take a look if they're going through this tough process and want to help manage their feelings, come out of divorce better than before. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Karen. It was a pleasure.
Tracy, thanks so much.